So I changed back to.
You guys like State Farm, if they have just a couple of claims, they just drop you?
Everybody ready?
Yeah.
You ready? Call the meeting order, stand for pledge, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any public comment this morning? Hearing none. Jeremy, you want to give your report?
I gave you a report that looks like Adams, but
Okay.
it's got a lot less information, so it's the single page version, so 59 calls in September, so we've been staying busy up there in our little neck of the woods, so.
Well, that's surprising. Well, I didn't expect that many. Of course, it's higher than,
Yeah, last year we had 45, so,
you know.
but yeah, it's a busy month for us, so.
Jeremy, I have a couple questions for
Yeah.
you. Just looking at September where it says you had 59 911 calls,
Uh-huh.
but it just shows that you have 9 non-emergents. So what were your other 50?
Right. Yeah, so the 9 would be transfers, most of those back to the nursing home.
Okay, so what'd you do with the other 50 911 calls? How's that work?
Well, it'd be broke down between medical, trauma. I just didn't break it down here for September.
I think so 50 of those are 911s, actual a person calls 911, take them to the hospital. The other 9 are them going to a hospital and bring a patient, presumably
Okay.
pumped back to Pleasant Meadows.
So are those other 50, should those be in the transfers emergent column that line?
No, it's not a transfer.
No.
It's a 911 call.
Okay.
We don't do emergency, well, I shouldn't say we don't, but we haven't done very many of those in the years I've been up there. So usually that's because the horizon's right there, they can just get them and go. You know, we're gonna be 20 minutes before we can get to the hospital to take them. So that's why we don't do emergency transfers.
Okay. And then my other question is, just looking at the Christmas leader this week, and it's the same as it was last week, not a surprise, that, looking at the fire department report, it says ambulance assist on almost all of them. So what's the process up there?
As far as getting in the paper? Or,
No.
Oh, as
I
far
mean, so we have an ambulance.
Right.
So what's the fire department's, why do they have a role?
Anything other than nursing home calls, the fire department gets dispatched as well. And that's in Hume, Metcalf, and Christmas, so.
Okay.
So they go out on all calls. You know, we go to the nursing home a lot, so they don't go out there, so, because there's medical staff already there.
So if it's, if I call, if for whatever reason I need to call 911,
If you're at my house,
okay,
you're at my house visiting, you call 911, they're gonna dispatch the fire and the ambulance.
okay.
You know, right now in Chrisman, we're beating the fire department there pretty much consistently.
Sure,
So, but they're still dispatched.
okay, and then what?
You know, if they help us if need be, if not, they go back to the station.
Okay, so my heart issue is serious and I need to go somewhere, then what?
We'll,
Then you take me?
right, yeah, the fire department doesn't do any transport. They're just first responders, so you know, in the big scheme of things, they would get there first and initiate care, and then the ambulance would come in after them. But like I said, in Chrisman right now, we're beating them to most of the calls, so, you know, theoretically, we could disregard them. We don't, you know. And we've got some large patients, so sometimes lift assist is nice, so.
Sure.
And in the Paris Community Fire area, the fire, same procedure. Fire and ambulance are, on medical things, are both dispatched. And like out in Vermillion, a lot of times, you know, when it's 15 minutes away, a lot of times, not always, they get there before the ambulance gets there. And, you know, because all the fire departments are trained and all that's paramedic level. And
So they're trained as emergency medical responders, but they have a lot of the same equipment a basic EMT does. So they can at least get there and start to stabilize the patient before an ambulance gets there.
You know, I think the leader hadn't been in the leader else, I hadn't noticed it forever. That wasn't always something that was in the leader, so it wasn't something that was drawing attention.
I don't pick up the leader usually, but I did last week. I'm like, whoa. So I was a little
That's
surprised.
the majority of it, yeah.
So-
One semi-fire, which I assume was a, field,
Some farmer.
a grain truck, yeah. The rest are ambulance assists. Okay, thank you.
That happens. Teams.
Adam, your report.
September was a super busy month for us, 220 for 911s. Then when you take in our mobile integrated health, that put our total volume up to 375 for an average of 12 and a half a day. So the crew stayed pretty busy. There were several days that we had fourth car in, so our fourth ambulance, we would staff and put it on the road as well. Dispatching routes still 0.84, so well under a minute. Then the rest of our times are well below industry average. 30 emergent transfers, so emergent transfers are going to be your hospital to hospitals, your non-emergents are going to be usually your hospitals back to nursing homes, stuff like that. Reading through the rest of the list, are treated, not transported, or refused, we're pretty much on par across the board. We're still sitting about 40. And the majority of the, actually, I would say 99% of those are not billable. So unless we provide a lot of care on scene, using a lot of equipment, those runs are not billable. We had quite a few PR events for the month, and the second page you can see is our destinations. So other than the increased volume for the month, not much else has changed, but it was a super busy month. Any questions on this piece?
A lot of times you have two ambulances go out at one time, you bill twice for this one.
So the only bill comes from the transport of the patient. So if there's only one patient, there's one bill for that ambulance.
Okay.
Now, we will send multiple ambulances out just for an extra set of hands for depending on if it's a not breathing or found something serious that could use that extra set of hands. We'll send 2, maybe 3 units to that depending on what the call is. But
Now, sometimes you have a heavy patient too, so
Yeah.
it takes more than 2 people.
yeah, that patient will only get billed for the actual transport.
Okay. Wonderful.
As far as the AEDs go, all the AEDs came in. I'll be working over the next few days getting all those set up. And then I'll get in contact with the respective department heads to get some training done. So hopefully, probably look in November to actually roll those AEDs out in service.
Any other questions for Adam or Jeremy? JR?
Just want to introduce myself, J.R. Abernathy. I'm on the county's package and work comp insurance. So I'll be working with you on those renewals, and we have a package coming up here on December 1st. So that's the priority right now, and work comp's coming up January 1st. So
I know on our insurance committee, I think Andy's in charge, and Lisa's on it, and Russ. Those are the 3 people on the insurance committee.
okay, I spoke with Andy already last week, but we'll be getting everything. I've sent out a few documents just recently, and then there'll be some more coming today, tomorrow to get all the information for the renewal.
Did you have anything, Andy, on insurance?
Not yet. I just got that, I came through this morning first thing, so I haven't had much of a chance to look at it yet,
Yeah.
but we talked the other day about some of
Are
it.
you gonna have to set up a meeting? Or?
Probably. You're doing a little more in depth, I think.
Okay, all right.
So, something we need to look at. I mean, did you get it? You don't know if you looked this morning or not. If not, I'll send it to you. Everybody can look at it, and then we'll get together.
Yeah, that one was, this is just renewal documentation
Right.
as far as getting information for the renewal. So the first one was just the schedules. The second one coming out will be more in-depth questions where the department heads will probably have to be involved to answer some of those questions. Get the information we need for the
It
renewal.
looked like what we got this morning was something that department heads need to look at and see if there's
Some of the biggest-
anybody in there that doesn't need to be, or vehicles or equipment that doesn't need to be
Yeah.
on there. So,
I'm gonna forward that email on, I got that this morning, the schedules
Mhm.
and all the equipment, whatnot. When we get back, I'm gonna forward that to the appropriate department heads so that they can just go down the list and say yay or nay, equipment, personnel, vehicles, what have you.
The equipment and the auto schedule should be pretty up to date. The driver's schedule, I looked at, I don't think we've really had one for a little while, so, as far as update, so, a couple of years.
Okay. All right, thanks, JR.
Yep, thank you.
Samantha, did you have anything?
Did you
Okay.
guys have questions for me?
Andy, do you have anything to report?
The boilers, new boilers are in for the jail.
Oh, good, that's good.
So I don't know if he was gonna get together with the sheriff and said, we'll call them, kind of schedule, but they had already removed the old one. I don't think they took it out, but it was unhooked, so they were ready to put this in, so there's two different boilers. I got with Ameren, and it's confusing, but since we're putting two energy efficient boilers, there should be, the rebates, like we got with all our other smart lock stuff. There should be some rebates on energy efficient boilers too, so. But it's like,
Thank you.
there's like 50 pages of stuff you gotta go through to figure out which one applies to you. So I called the gal in Peoria, talked to her, and she said, I'll send you the pages you need to look at. Well, she sent me the exact same thing I got on their line, on their site and looked at. So there is a contact, a local contact. I'm gonna see if he can guide me through it a little better but other than that, that's it.
Do you want to report on the meeting we had with, on core and,
Oh, yeah.
and cleaner on the courthouse?
I took that out of my thing this morning. Basically, we had a phone meeting with Michael with Klinger and Associates, and he basically suggested that what we do, and I think this is on the agenda for Wednesday, what they want to come in and do is like a real in-depth, basically it's a 3D scanning of the entire courthouse, indoors and out, and they do the 3D scanning is indoors. I'm not sure that it's a 3D out. Did you understand that?
I read that this morning, I think it's outside too.
Well, they do that with a camera they set up, and he said basically what they do, and I'll start it inside, is they come in and they put this 3D camera in, and it scans the entire, each room and each portion of the courthouse, so that when they get done, they have a computer generated 3D of the entire courthouse, and he said it will actually get in depth as much as telling you where water lines are, electric lines, which is, we've numerous times run into, and I've been up there with like plumbers and things, and it's like, I don't know where that line goes to, I don't know where stuff is, but this will be a really in-depth, basically picture, and then they come out. He said they want to wait until like November when all the leaves drop off the trees, and then they'll do an exterior. I knew he said 3D, but then of the exterior, but then he says they use drones with cameras, and they get a real in-depth entire picture of the courthouse. So, which will tell us if we're looking to put an elevator, relocate the elevator. It will give us, I don't know if you've ever gone into the courthouse and looked around, but you'll stand on one floor and think, okay, now what's above it, because it's a round building. It's difficult to think exactly where stuff is, but he says it will, by doing that, would give us a real good idea of where you could relocate the elevator, what's in the way, and what would have to be moved. As far as the roof, putting the roof on it, he said it will get you a much better, between Klinger, who is the architect, Core, which is a engineering firm, he said between the two of them will come up with good bid specs. And by having the 3D imagery, he thinks you'll get a lot better opportunities for more exact bids, because everything's pretty well lined out. They can, someone bidding on it can see everything, versus going, well, I'm not sure what's behind that, so I'm gonna pad it a little bit, so I don't lose my shirt on in bidding. But he said that they've done this kind of thing before, and it's much more exact. You got a lot better bids. So what we need to do, but it's what we need to do is on Wednesday the fee proposal, and I'll pass this around. Architectural services is $15,000. 3D scan of the building is $13,000. Aerial drone is $2,000. So combined total for Klinger is $30,000. And then Core had theirs in order to fee proposal hourly not to exceed $22,700. So I think we thought it was pretty essential. I don't know how else you go about getting a bid on the building, short of paying someone hourly. I don't know. I think in order to get a bid on it, you've got to have some bid specs, and these guys will, I think, will come up with it. So I think Jeff and you and I were, and Russ were in agreement that I thought it was essential, and probably given the time frame that they want to come the 1st of November, I think it's on the agenda for Wednesday. I feel like it's essential. So.
Well, it sounds like it's good, it would be valuable even if we didn't have a project.
And he said that, he goes, if you get ready and you want to put carpet, I mean, he said it's something as simple as put carpet in a room or fix some plumbing or something, he goes, we'll have that 3D imagery. You can come back, we can tell you exactly how much of flooring you need for a room, exactly how much ceiling you need, where the plumbing is. So given the fact that we have very little on that building, I think it'd be invaluable to have that information.
And this is reimbursable or payable, reimbursable through the CARES money?
I think that's where we're kind of using that money.
Great.
Yeah.
With the anticipation of, we've gotten a couple bids, one of them really high on a roof, one of them I feel like was probably a little low for Basinger, but they didn't do a really in-depth, this will give you, I think when they get done with this, you'll have a real close idea of what it's going to cost to put a roof on the place and to relocate the elevator. So.
I cannot fathom, if we relocate the elevator, I cannot fathom the work and the expense and how exactly you would build the center back in and make it look the way it does now to match everything up. It's just a statement, I just can't fathom that.
We went, I was with Michael, and we were looking at it, and he goes, I'm not sure what was here, and I said, well, walk around in the back of the elevator. And he goes, this is what was probably all the way around the upstairs upstairs area was, there's all the old woodworking back. I don't know, I would have thought if they took it out, they would put it upstairs in the attic. It's not up there. I don't know whether they just got rid of it. I don't know. But anyway, that's probably something similar to that. What's behind the elevator upstairs is what was probably in that, I guess, rotunda is what you call that thing. But
So I would think we would commit to restoring it to its original beauty when we do this, not make it look like, oh, in 2023, we put the floor back in.
right.
And they try to match everything up.
so, and Michael had some ideas where he thought the elevator could be relocated, and he said he'd like to get a good woodworker that could replicate some of the woodwork and make it look like it was always in the building. I mean, I've done some woodworking. I mean, it's not, certainly not hard to do with correct tools. So, anyway, hopefully that's what we can do.
Okay. Mr. Brenner?
Don wanted to have Andrew explain a little bit on the hours that she turned in. Something about during the COVID period that when she worked, that should have been documented on her hours. So we met last week with Don, Andrew, and Pam and went through this stuff. I think we got it worked out. So that way he get reimbursed for some of the hours
Right.
that she worked. So, so I think we got it taken care of. So.
What about the spay and neuter program?
Yeah, we really haven't talked much about
She
that.
hasn't got,
No, I need to get with her.
okay.
I don't know where she can do it on her own, or we need to have a committee meeting, so. So it's been kind of put on the back burner, basically. Basically, I forgot about it. Yeah,
Do you have monthly meetings, quarterly meetings?
we have, every 3 months. Yeah.
When's your next meeting?
Let's see,
It should be quite a ways till we
yeah,
just have
we just
one.
have
You just
one.
had one?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably be,
Probably December.
probably December, probably
December.
December,
End of the year,
yeah.
fourth quarter.
Well, maybe you want to get a hold of her and get together, and
Okay.
get going on
Yeah,
that
right,
again.
right. So Jeff will be on me, my butt about that too, so,
Yeah,
yeah. We'll work on it.
okay.
All right.
Russ?
Does anybody want copies of these?
No,
They were,
I think Augie was gonna send them to everybody.
we saw them.
Should be in your board
You've
packet.
seen,
were.
okay.
Yes.
The contract,
With the core and,
The actual contract itself, no, the proposals are in your contract, or in your,
I'll look at that.
in your-
If not, if anybody wants that, I
Packet.
No.
can see if I can get.
it's not in here.
was supposed to be.
They
You
were
want me to go
emailed.
have,
Email, I think.
Yeah.
let me have Aaron, see if he can make some copies of this for people. Is anybody interested in it?
Andy, let me see that, please. Those were copied and,
Email to them.
well, they've been emailed, but they also, the originals, do you guys not have those in
They're
your
not in
packets?
here. No. Well, not in this one anyway.
Oh, one of them or one there? Okay, my apologies.
Okay. I would get, I mean, I guess if we're gonna vote on Wednesday.
We can
maybe
get them,
somebody might
get them a copy and at least take it home, or you
Yeah,
want me to do it,
right.
do it right? I can do it if you want me to, Andy.
Yeah.
Like you're done.
I'm sorry, I've got them in my, I've got the originals in my folder for the board meeting, and I don't know what happened, but I'll get them for you.
I guess the same day that we had the conference with Michael, we had a sheriff's meeting, committee meeting, just basically went over the budget. The only really changes that he made in the budget is for the contract, the 2%, I think it's around 2% raise, and other than that, there's really isn't a whole lot of change in the sheriff's budget. Was there anything else we talked about?
That's something coming up tomorrow, and the number of deputies and number of, I'm not questioning, it's just something that they want. First time we voted on it, right, to make them have that many? Are we capable of doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
The county board authorizes the sheriff on the number of deputies, you know. He can't just go out and hire, we have to authorize him
Okay,
to.
that's wonderful.
And a year ago, we talked about authorizing up to 8 road deputies, but, and it's in the budget
Right.
for 8 road deputies. I think he currently only has 7, but we're just making it official that authorizing 8 road deputies. And also, a year or two, maybe 2 years ago, I thought we authorized 8 correctional officers. But I had Augie look that up, and 2 years ago, the one that was passed only had 7. So we're changing that to authorizing to have 8, which he currently has 8 correctional officers. So basically, we're just formalizing those things on the agenda, and they're both on the agenda for tomorrow for a resolution authorizing maintaining 8 deputies and 8 correctional officers. 2 different resolutions.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So why, is it because of union, why do we tell one department the number of staff, but that's the only department? Like, we don't tell Augie how many staff he can have. Why is it specific for the sheriff's office?
Well, the statute, as far as for the road deputies, we have the power to authorize that, and for correctional officers, there's nothing in the statute on that, but we did that 2 years ago to basically let the insurance company, because that was part of it, was staffing with the insurance, and the Department of Corrections, they do a annual inspection, and one of the things in that is we didn't have enough correctional staff. So we did that, just formalized it to let Department of Corrections know that we authorized this many staff, and also the insurance company. That's basically why we did it. We didn't have to, I guess. But I guess as far as the road deputies, we have to do that so he can have that many deputies. You know, he just can't do it on his own.
Gotcha.
I mean, he could, but, you know, we have, you know, the statute says that clearly that we have to authorize the number of deputies, road deputies.
In the budget, why doesn't he get more money for overtime when 60,000 is what he put for 2022? And already this year, we have 92,000 in overtime money spent. So why doesn't he budget more money for deputies?
Didn't he say that there's a lot of them are getting trained now? And because of COVID, a lot of the classes weren't open, but they are open. Didn't he say something to that
Well,
effect?
you're asking specific about road deputies.
Road deputies, okay.
Well, what Andy's talking about is on correctional officers.
Okay.
And correctional officers, he's got 8 full-time and he's got 3 part-time. And but as far as, I guess your question is, currently I think he's got 2, maybe 3 in training. So they're having to pay more for part-time people.
So next year, the overtime may be reduced because he'll have enough people to
Well,
cover the
Well,
shift.
it's always been a
See, with-
conversation we've been having.
no. Let me see the figures here. See, correctional overtime, and this isn't correct, and I'm pointing this out to Jeff, and he was gonna have to check on it. He's got 25,000 budgeted for correctional officers overtime, but according to this, 0 has been used, but they have used a little bit.
Yeah, I see that.
But if you look up here, right above, let's see. Correctional, on up higher, correction officers, part-time,
Yeah,
he's got 22,000 budgeted,
budgeted.
but he's used 61,
Yeah, right.
about 62,000.
right.
I assume that's accurate, I don't know.
Oh, well, I don't, he knows how to do budget, I just wonder.
Well,
So,
Right, you know, what
You
you're,
know
I guess
what
you're
it is.
asking
Yeah,
is,
why doesn't he budget more? Because next year you're gonna have a lot of, what's the term one to use? It's not gonna look right because the budget's 60,000, you spent 120,000, so why didn't you budget 120,000 next year?
that's,
That's why I'm asking.
I don't know, I can't answer that. That's just what he's submitted.
Yeah, okay.
But, you know, for the last umpteen years,
It's always going over.
Oh,
it
yeah.
goes way
Big
over.
time,
Yeah.
right. I just wondered.
Yeah, but see, like, he's got 400,000 budgeted for sheriff's deputies, but so far he's only used 271,000.
Yeah,
So,
I see that there.
so he's 120,
So good there.
130,000,
Which
so,
makes up for the overtime.
right, so it all kind of equals
No,
out.
looked at the final figure for the.
Bottom line,
Total,
bottom line, you wanna look at,
that's
you
what I'm
know,
saying.
the bottom line, the total
Mhm.
amount in the sheriff's budget.
Yeah, I see that. All right, just wondered.
Yeah.
Carl, excuse me, Jeff did say he's available for a phone call this morning if there are any questions, but he's traveling,
Right.
so, okay.
But see, this summer, a lot of these figures were on the salaries were all way out of whack.
Yeah,
And Jeff has spent a lot of time with the sheriff, with Pam, and the sheriff's secretary, because things were not coming out of the right areas.
well, he does a heck of a job, I'm not complaining about it.
So supposedly it's pretty, they got it down, he just met last week with them again, and it's pretty close, but there's still a little bit off.
That's what,
I mean, I mean, I know enough that
I don't want his job, so.
So,
Everybody else does
No.
it.
No.
Nothing.
so that, I mean, basically that's all that we really talked about. Go ahead.
Are we done?
No.
What about the holidays? Are we gonna bring that up
Yeah.
at the meeting? You're gonna do that?
I'll bring it up here in a minute.
Okay, just,
Yeah. Phil, do you have
Nothing.
any
Yeah.
plans? Okay, Lisa.
Yeah, I attended HRC 708 board meeting and then the open house. And I really think all the conversation that you and I had with Jonathan and then that Jonathan has had with us has done a lot to solidify his vision. Because I think he kind of, he was in the dream and wish phase. And us getting him to put it on paper has done a lot to help him as well. I think that's been a real good exercise for him as well as getting the money. The open house was very nice. There were a lot of people there, looking at both the HRC and the hospital side. I had good conversation with one of the hospital nurses who I knew outside of work. And I want to bring this up with Jonathan too. On the hospital side, their services there are for traditional Medicare patients only. And that's because traditional Medicare will pay the overhead. So there are some reasons that the hospital only deals with the traditional. But then if you are a Medicare Advantage patient, then they refer you over to HRC. And I want to talk to Jonathan to see. Plus Jonathan has started getting more focused on billing health insurance than he had been. So I want to talk to Jonathan and see if maybe there is a way to do a little more mirroring of what the hospital services are, because they're very good. And it's all senior counseling, basically on aging issues and helping to cope with the challenges you have with aging. Solar committee, except for you. So see, you couldn't go because you're Medicare Advantage. So I hope you can stay mentally well.
Me?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people hoping that. I'll be fine.
And then you recognize you should quit driving the bus before you're not mentally well.
I'll probably quit driving that bus when they come out. When everybody get on the bus wanna go and I'll be dead. So what's the hell he doing? He's always taking a nap. Now he's dead.
Russ and Derek and I met on solar committee, and I need to really get moving on that. That's my commitment for the week. But I thought I had a pretty decent ordinance start, and then we talked, and I had an email from Wyatt at Farm Bureau saying, take a look at Champagne's, and Champagne has a really good one. So I am just gonna take what I had, go into Champagne's, and put what I had into Champagne's, and then I think we're gonna be ready to go. But just so you know, Derek's family already signed a contract just over the line into Vermilion County, Illinois. So they already have a 40-acre solar farm. So it's probably a good thing he's on that committee because he gives a different perspective. So,
Eric,
Lorenzen.
was that the reason why I bought the property down there?
No, Vermilion County, Illinois.
Oh, okay.
So
I just wondered. Yeah.
They have,
I'm not saying, I don't know why I bought that property, but I'm just saying that his family has a
Okay.
40 acres contract for a solar farm, and it's in place.
Okay,
So I've
It's
driven
in
by there a
place?
couple different times,
okay.
yeah. Which, it will be interesting to see if the neighbors feel there will also be built as one, or whether it's just a 40-acre standalone. You wouldn't think it would be.
No.
And I could give you real clear instructions on how to find it if you ever wanted to.
Do you have any flat land down there?
Where?
Where the solar farm is?
No, it's up
It's
at,
up
up
north.
by Ridge Farm.
Vermilion, Danville,
Okay.
Ridge
Is-
Farm,
Okay.
it's just east of Ridge Farm.
Hey, I'm getting, hey, I told you I
You
seen
need to
that.
be talking to him, not me.
So that's what I've
Seen
been
them
up
over
to,
once in a
so
while.
my big commitment is the solar.
I only see one drawback with that, and that's it maybe takes up some good farmland. Just a question, if a guy decides to do that, he's got farmland, probably he's getting a good money out of
He's
that.
getting
maybe
a
breaks even.
beautiful amount of money
So
out
he's
of
not
it.
really losing anything.
Oh,
really.
he is gaining so much income from it.
No,
So I'm right.
doesn't
I-
change
So
that.
just go ahead and say it, it won't
Yeah,
hurt.
I certainly don't fault any
No,
farmer
I
from
agree.
deciding to go that way.
So is there,
Although it gives me great personal sadness.
well, it's gonna
Because
stay the
I'm
same all the time.
future-oriented.
I mean, it's not gonna, market's not gonna affect that. I mean, it's gonna be.
When you go through Kansas,
certain
you
amount.
ought to be real sad.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not,
No,
but as a
just what
county,
I tell you.
as a
Yeah.
county board member, my perspective has to remain different and objective, and I have
Oh,
to not
geez.
put my
Yeah,
personal
I
out there.
knew I should've worn my boots today,
However,
but I got-
just like with the wind turbines, my concern, the person I always want to try to protect is the person who has no opportunity for financial gain unless they want to pay off, and then that's not my problem.
You've done some thinking about this, haven't you?
Oh,
You went-
does there have to be a decommissioning program on that as
I
well?
would think so.
Yep.
Like, interesting news article
Mhm.
talked about Europe and all their renewable energy.
Right.
That is not, they are buying oil and coal and
sure.
natural gas because all these aren't panning out to produce what they anticipated them to produce.
Just feel bad if the guy's has to weed eater out all over.
Well, we have a former
That poor bastard.
employee who was hired by the company, and he's making beautiful money too, because you know, they got all the government money to spend. And he was down at Kansas, and they use a little skid steer with a little mower, and he said, on a regular day, now this was August where it's hotter than blazes anyway, he said it was so hot in there you could hardly stand it, because, you know, they're solar. So, but, and,
You have to do it at night.
so, and he said they broke several of them just from accidentally hitting a stand, so they're pretty fragile. They'll tell you they're not, but he said they're,
Hmm.
but,
I don't have any, so I'm not bothering me.
but yeah, so that's one of the things, when I was reading all the Indiana ones, solar ordinances, they were talking about using, pollinator plants. Well, if you use pollinator plants, you can't mow them from April 1st to August 1st, which makes sense. But this was after August 1st, and so I don't know what the situation is with the one up at Ridge Farm, but the plants were taller than the solar panels.
Well, that's not good, is it?
And they're dying,
Well,
and
that's
so
good.
again, my concern goes back to, and we talked about this, and I think Russ and I are on the same page. Fire is a concern, and when I talked to a
Never thought
lady
about that.
over in Indiana whose husband puts in fire suppression systems, that she's the one that brought that to my attention. But I thought, yeah, that's a real big concern, and how do you fight one? Which I happen to have a cousin that's in the solar business, so, you know, I have not even with him yet. Because I want to know, how do you handle fire suppression on solar?
It'd be a mess,
'Cause,
wouldn't it?
my understanding is it's not water.
You have to have a real long hose.
Oh,
I
and
got
one
one
thing
of
though, Champaign County says that they have to give a key, they have to give access to local fire departments. So that was my one concern.
Oh, I see that.
One of my
I see that
concerns.
too,
So, yeah, I'm on it. I'm just kind
yeah.
of
Yeah,
behind.
okay.
Sorry.
I like to hear, there's a lot of stuff there I didn't even know. I didn't even think
Well,
about
I know,
that.
it's like winter.
I just felt bad for the poor guy that's gotta
Yeah.
weed eat all that. Hell, it'd take him for a
Hey,
year. to
they
get-
make really disgustingly good money. Don't feel for them.
Well, I take it all back.
Take it back.
Anything else anybody have? Going through the agenda, you know, Aaron, there's 5 highway resolutions. We talked about them this morning. It says a resolution to expend recovery money in the amount of $137,000. What's that for? Does anybody know?
It's a schedule, should be in there.
It was an attachment on the email. I don't know if it's
Okay.
in here or not. It was, staff.
There's the resolutions in there, I know that.
Here, it's in there.
There you go.
Oh, you're just not quick enough.
Okay, it's reimbursing the general fund, and it looks like it's for the county highway. COVID cost reimbursements.
Money that they lost during COVID, that the government pays up for, is that it? No?
I don't know.
That's what most of the things, reimbursement is just
That's what
coming back,
Don
it's
is-
money we've expended,
What?
wouldn't it?
That's what Don was asking Andrew on.
Yeah, that's the same reason,
Okay.
Same reason,
All right,
yeah.
It's
okay.
just staff that were out.
because he didn't know, that's why.
And it's through county highway. Holiday calendar. Any comments?
I got one. What is the purpose of Juneteenth? I know what it is, I know legally what it is, but I also know slaves, they, you know, in 1863 we freed them, we were nice about that. But only in states that were controlled by the Union, people don't realize that. So in the South they weren't freed then, but this is to celebrate the freedom of the slave. Started with the state of Texas,
Mhm.
and we're gonna have a holiday because we freed some slaves, right? That's our holiday.
Federal holiday.
I'm not
Yeah, this is.
I'm not trying to look down, I'm just saying, what the crap? Why is it constant, we gotta screw with things, change things?
Yeah.
I'm not, Christopher Columbus, the hell, he doesn't deserve a holiday, he didn't do
Yeah,
it.
they're
He
trying to
never
do
made it
what-
to North America.
They're trying to get that.
Ended up in
Leif Erikson was the only one, yeah, and the Indians, hell, let's have an Indian holiday, they're the
Well,
ones
there
that
is
were
one
honest.
for an indigent.
I know, I heard that this morning,
Indigent.
I'm just up to here with,
They're trying
I
to do
guess
it
I'm old
Columbus
school.
Let's be
did.
You realize that that was the
you
downfall
just
of
throw
our,
gasoline on the fire, they said.
the
doing that
amount of
purpose.
holidays.
Yeah.
It's just aggravating the crap out of me. Don't anybody else see the silliness of some of this stuff, or am I just?
No, I said that was the downfall of Rome, was they kept continually having, extending
Oh, yeah,
holidays,
they had-
holidays,
they-
holidays.
You probably
and
learned
pretty
that in
soon
my history class, they
no one worked.
had more holiday, they had, like, out of 3, they had 256 holiday days a year, out of 300, whatever.
Right,
That's
360.
I know what it is.
But like on the, for the sheriff's department, someone that's been there for 15 years, they get 4 weeks of vacation, they get 5 personal days, and they get 13 holidays. So, you know, add that up, that's like 7 weeks
Paid holiday.
of time off, right?
Let's just say that we said we don't like the Juneteenth deal. What
Well,
would we be
I think on
open a can of worms?
what Augie, on what he gave us, I don't have that stuff with me, but what he gave us the other day, he was adding Juneteenth and Election Day.
Right, election day, I have no problem with.
Yeah, and I think the calendar is in your board package.
It is,
Well,
I saw it.
the calendar,
And the
it's-
one that the Supreme Court
Right in.
sent to Judge Garst, and Judge Garst sent it downstairs to me. That's what that is. And the state of Illinois is adding those two.
so this has 15 holidays. Currently, we have 13.
We're adding 2 more.
And as I pointed out the other day, through the sheriff's department, adding these 2 extra holidays, that's gonna cost the county $12,000 roughly.
So which two you're talking about? One is, let's see, June.
The election day and
Election day.
Juneteenth, right? Those
Yeah.
2?
Now, the courthouse people, county highway people, there is no cost, because they just get the day off, you know.
But you guys work anyway.
But,
His election day, he works anyway.
right,
I mean, not all of them, but they still have to work, that's part of his job.
but with the sheriff's department, when someone gets a day off, you gotta have someone to replace that shift, so, and normally it's at overtime.
Right.
And is it double time as opposed to time and a half?
Depends on.
We just pay
Well,
regular,
it's
you just pay
double
regular
time, so I
time.
guess you get
Somebody
the
comes
bargain.
in, fills in, they get just paid
No,
regular pay.
it's-
Or is it?
They get paid
Holiday pay.
for a holiday, but then if someone's coming in
That's just
to fill that
ends
shift,
up
that's at overtime.
What do they get? Do they get just the?
Time and a half.
Just time and a half.
Actually, it's double time, but you get
It's
paid the regular,
No.
and then you get paid for the holiday.
That's the regular, but the sub, the guy that comes in and fills that void gets time and a half.
Right.
See, in some places that's double time.
Yes, it is. That's what's on Sunday.
I don't know, I just
Same guy that makes
have a
those
problem with that, and the
stupid-
average person doesn't get that much time
So which
off.
ones are you talking about, maybe not celebrated?
I don't wanna, I just think they get 13 holidays, and that's,
I don't get paid vacation, do you, Carl?
no.
Don't need it.
I haven't had a day off, and last vacation I had was 6, 7 years ago. I
I
worked
haven't
7
had
days a week.
vacations since 2018.
Well, the company I'm interviewing with now has 11, which I think is really exciting coming from the hospital with 6.
Oh,
But,
yeah, 6,000.
yeah,
And it's up to us to,
So you'd have to pick 2 of those out if you want to cut down to 13, so which 2 you gonna do away with?
Election Day and Juneteenth, as far as I'm concerned, leave it like it is. That's my,
how does that affect you, Augie?
Well, I'm gonna work election day, and
So
so
it-
are all my people.
So it doesn't matter anyway. does it?
I can't speak for the judicial system, but the judicial system will be closed on those days.
Whether we have it as a holiday or not.
That's my understanding, and then, now, if you want that clarified, I can speak with Judge Garst, but that's
well, yeah,
what-
like the circuit clerk, they go by that too.
yes, and probation.
so
State's
currently,
attorney?
for an election day, do other county staff just go during their own time, or do they just flex time and just make it work
On election
on
day,
election day? I mean, it's not like they have to go far to vote. If they're gonna just go to your office and vote sometime, it's.
You can't, can you
Hardship,
vote?
I think I'm looking at the hardship. Is there a hardship?
for people to get off work to go vote or to go
Yeah.
vote, I haven't heard of any hardships.
What's your election hours, 6 to 7? 6 in the
6
morning to
a.m.
7?
and 7
And the
p.m.
courthouse is open 8 to 4?
And the courthouse is open at 6 a.m. On election day till 7 p.m. But yeah, we're open from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. And you got 40 days ahead of election day.
Exactly, so
to
I
vote.
don't know that, Personally, I don't know that election day is really a justifiable or needed holiday. Although I understand your thought was to make it consistent with,
It's not him.
not mine.
It's not him.
It's not me.
okay,
He just happens
It's a
to fall
state.
into
I'm the
part of it. He's
messenger.
not.
Yeah,
He's the
I'll try to
messenger.
remember that.
You're just the messenger.
that's right. Yeah, you're supposed to give your employees time off to go vote anyway.
Right.
Right.
And I can't imagine there's anybody who's so
Mm-hmm.
hard-nosed that they wouldn't flex.
Well, if you've got to be busy that day, then plan ahead. I mean, voting,
You got ungodly, that
right,
courthouse
you
is
come in
open
there
for
early,
days.
vote early.
I mean, if you're gonna say, you won't give me time off, so I'm not gonna vote, now how childish is that?
Yeah,
Get
the
your ass out
person,
of bed at
the
7 in
person
the
that
morning.
calls me at 10 to 7
40 days before.
and says, I can't get to my polling place because it's, you know, I'm wherever and it's gonna take me 20 minutes to get there. Well, I'm sorry about that, you know? I don't set the hours for
Right.
election day. They're set for me and that's what
There's,
they are.
anybody who wants to vote,
But where
there's
have you
time
been
to
for
vote.
40
That's-
days?
Anything you hear, it's just an excuse. That's all it is.
What is the planning on airport part does not mean an emergency on mine? Yeah,
It's true. That's
Yeah, it is.
pretty well said.
this is a pretty.
So I would not include election day. And if I was going to Juneteenth, I think it's silly. Just an opinion. I get shot,
I agree.
but still opinion.
I agree.
And I don't know that it's gonna change on here, but, you know,
I don't
many
want to
places
piss
do
Judge
President's Day,
Garst off, because I may be in front of him someday.
It's not gonna bother him.
And I'd say we stay our kind of the way it is.
The 13,
Yep.
and leave those Juneteenth and Election Day off.
I agree.
Will you guys,
I'm fine,
I
I'm
agree.
fine.
Lisa,
I agree.
you're important, so I'm just fine.
Like I said, I don't get paid vacation anyway, so
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
you're already overpaid.
Social Security.
Well, you can think about it, we can talk about it tomorrow.
Okay,
I won't be there tomorrow.
Okay. But,
You know my opinion.
all right, thank you. All right. Anything else that we need to discuss?
No, Lisa?
Augie, have you communicated with Bellwether on the HR questions or suggestions?
Yes,
Okay,
I submitted our meeting notes and I talked to Bruce and he's working on updating that, incorporating that to send back to us.
okay.
Thank
And-
you for reminding me.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. And Angie had texted me at 4:45 that morning when she had COVID issues, a positive employee who was headed to the ER, and she's like, what do I do? And I said, tell everybody not to come in until you get a hold of the public health department, and then I think things ended up working out okay. But, I don't know how Dawn had handled it. And I don't know if the situations were similar, but I thought, if Angie's had it happen and she's wondering what to do. I don't know if you guys have talked about that as department heads.
We have not. Last year, when COVID was new to everybody and there was a suspicion, turned out that there was a reporting that there was COVID in the courthouse. Turned out to not be true, but the ServPro, I believe, was called in with their hazmat suits on and a whole bit. It turned out that that was a negative test. And so there is not a blanket policy across the county on what to do if you have COVID. Yeah, you know, common sense says if you don't feel good and you're running a fever, stay home.
I don't think
But that doesn't all,
anybody's
but people don't always listen, you know, don't always apply common sense.
Well, and because her staff member went to the hospital at roughly 4:45 in the morning, it wasn't as if there was a chance for a public health department to weigh in on it. But then Angie ended up testing negative in the afternoon and came in, and she had one staff member who apparently doesn't work in the same little office that was able to be in and work, but they locked the door until that got all resolved.
Yeah, I think Angie did a very good job of handling it for her office. And a tremendous amount of work for two people, the entire week, plus. So, yeah, I think each office should have a plan in place. And, you know, again, I know what we did when it was just the threat or the scare of COVID, when, you know, everybody was locked down. We came in at different hours, and so we weren't all there at the same time. And we worked around that, but thank God so far, we haven't had a case in my office, so.
Well, and now that we know that the cooties aren't as transmittable as they were,
Right.
yeah, it makes a
Right.
difference.
Well,
Cooties.
So I don't know if I answered your question, but I rambled a little bit, but, I don't know. Did that answer you, Lisa,
I just
kinda, or
didn't know
not?
if you guys amongst yourselves had talked very much about
Amongst the
what if.
department heads, we have not.
Yeah.
That brings up a question. You know, we used to, 2 years ago, prior to COVID, used to have monthly department head meetings. Is that something we need to maybe start?
Yeah.
Have you heard people talk about, you know, maybe we need to start having those again?
No.
Do you think they were beneficial?
Well, I think they were beneficial. Yeah, when we could get most everybody there, they were beneficial because, yes, the sharing, communicating what's going on in everybody's department, but everybody gets busy, and then after a while, you know, it's not like there's always something new to talk about every month.
Maybe every other month?
Or maybe every other month, but we get busy, and then it turns out where instead of, well, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 people showing up, however many, you get 2 or 3. And so now with Lisa on the offices committee, we mentioned about meeting maybe a little more frequently.
And having a handbook,
Mhm.
it gives you a format. We talked about maybe Bellwether providing some training so that we would have a specific topic so that people would feel more inclined to come because they knew exactly what was going to be talked about and what was going to be covered. But we haven't gotten any further than that, other than the meeting that we had to look at the handbook. Thank goodness brought up a lot of questions and concerns, and that's where Augie was emailing back to Bellwether.
Yeah, we had fair representation that morning, you know, at the meeting, so.
Well, maybe we can get something going again on that sometime in the future.
Yeah, I think yes, our goal, I believe, was to have something available for the board to look at and maybe approve here yet in November, but I don't know realistically that Bruce is gonna be able to get that back to us in time.
And we really need to have another meeting with department heads, because they found so many things.
And I think, Lisa, I would like to do is invite Bruce to come and be a part of that meeting,
Yes.
so that, you know, we discuss, and it's hard to keep up with what everybody is saying each point, especially, well, everybody has various concerns, and we certainly don't want to miss anything, but him being here, he could answer a lot of questions right then and there,
Right, I agree.
so.
Okay. Mr. Berry, did you have something?
Yeah, probably at the next health department meeting, it'll be brought up about the summer lunch program. We may have to take over, and Janet says she will not do it unless she has extra funding. That's why if the board is agreeable to pay like we did last year, part of the funding for that. But right now, they don't want to do it, she doesn't want to do it.
How does the schools, excuse me, how does the school system fit in on
Like
that?
I say, they
They
had
just,
the paper, they got a bunch of money, can that money be used for the lunch program, I wonder? They got like $2 or $3 million.
Yeah, they have ample money.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
It ought to be of their prime interest, wouldn't it?
Well, I
Just their
could talk,
kids.
I could talk to Jeremy Larson
Yeah.
and see if they'd be willing to fund that
Well,
program.
but remember, with, this
maybe.
past year, they were it was being funded basically by grants, so,
Part of it was, yeah.
yeah, so I personally don't think it's a matter of, well, are we gonna give Janet more money so that she'll do it? It's, the grants are available and this is part of it.
Right.
I don't
Well,
know,
the school system contributed some
Did it?
this summer.
they have money to
I
contribute.
just don't,
That's right.
I don't think Janet
And-
wants to do it.
I haven't had any direct contact with people at the school, but I've heard that they're maybe interested in getting involved in it next year.
Okay.
Well, that would be the
Right.
natural, just because
Right.
they know who the students are.
Right.
Right.
Whereas the general public doesn't necessarily know.
The
who
health
the-
department should do it, that's my point.
Well,
I mean, that's
I
part-
don't know.
Well,
I
I think
don't know
this
that
is sort, they should.
either.
Just
get
because-
involved.
This has gotta be,
Amanda
this
did
has
it.
gotta be everybody.
Amanda did it because I don't think she did it as part of the health department, she did it because she's a resident of Edgar County.
County.
And I think Brenda Wright used to handle partially some of that,
Yeah.
didn't she?
I think so.
And then I think she didn't that year or passed it on to Amanda, and I think that's how Amanda got involved with it, but because no one else maybe was doing it that year. But I think it was more, not as the health department, but as a citizen of the Edgar County.
I'm still gonna bring it up, so maybe she can somehow get it started anyway.
Yeah,
I definitely think the school system needs to be involved, just if nothing else, they know who the students are.
Well, they are
I
involved.
think they are interested in,
They're just not involved as much as they could be.
yeah, so.
Because
And I
they
don't
haven't
know
had
that.
to.
No,
Somebody else is
well,
gonna leave it
Well,
be.
well,
It will
It needs
work
to be
on it.
all of the.
I think
school
someone will
systems.
Everybody.
take it.
You put something in the paper as far as what this program that they got this grant was, and to me it was, we got,
Sound like-
the maximum grant was because of our population was, we were low income,
Free lunch, free reduced lunch.
yeah, area.
It's as I recall, it's an Illinois State Board of Education funded program using the USDA free and reduced lunch money to extend feeding, which is normally done in the school, during the school session, to make that food available to students in the summer when school is not in session. Schools traditionally did not provide those meals, and so the state board was looking for ways to do it. And I'm gonna correct Andy, as my memory is, Amanda has always done it, got the grant through the Douglas County
Okay.
Department of Health, then expanded it into Edgar County. When Brenda was doing it, she was doing it under the auspices of Amanda.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
And I mean, Amanda has done it in 2 or 3 different formulations of trying to get that program to work.
Okay.
And one year Brenda stepped up and volunteered and they did all kinds of stuff, and then she may have been involved the second year, but then not anymore after that.
Okay.
And then when COVID struck, then it became, let's just go to the restaurants and see what we can do with there, and that all seemed to work out really well for
Okay.
everybody. And, but the schools, it's not to say the schools won't, but in the past, they have not really been
It
interested.
sounded like the article in the paper that you had, the money got was the extension of the school day, not in the summertime. Am I correct
I
on
don't
that?
understand what you're asking,
Well,
Dan.
they gave a time where the kids could come in and they had a meal, but it seemed like it indicated only was an extension of school day for those kids, and not done extra like in the summertime.
No, this
Or
funding,
did it
this
indicate
this
summertime?
funding is for a summer feeding
Okay,
program.
alright.
That's the way I understand it, of course, I
Okay.
could be wrong.
Okay, I just wondered.
Yeah, I think he's right.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else? Not, need a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor?
All right.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.